Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 18th, 2017 episode of the Discourse with Brandon, and I am joined as always by my lovely panel of powerful progressive pundits. First off, there's Richard. Say hello, Richard.
Muted.
Unmute yourself if you might.
Pressing the button as you speak. Got this. I'm just happy to see everyone. Thanks for joining us. Earlier this week, we did a special live town hall with Jaffe running against Nancy Pelosi. Mention that also, please. But if you didn't get a chance to check it out. Otherwise, I'm just go back to doing this stuff in the back. Go ahead.
Absolutely. We had a great time with Stephen Jaffe running against Nancy Pelosi for California's, I want to say 12th district, maybe 16th, but I believe it's 12th district. And so if you haven't seen that town hall, please feel free. It's in the list of uploaded videos. My second wonderful person on the panel is my Socratic life partner, Dare. Say hello, Dare.
Oh my God, that's still. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and I'll try my best not to strangle Brandon through the webcam. So yeah.
Well,
a good show.
If you find out a way to do that, you have a very lucrative career in sex cam.
That should get us some views too, and somebody's got to contribute to the Patreon.
Definitely Anyway, and rounding off this square, our fourth is the lovely Katie Gerhold. Say hello, Katie.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me back.
No problem. We love to have you here. You're a great guest. You always clean up after yourself. Don't stay too long. You're not one of those people.
I try.
Yeah, well, some people, they just can't manage. It is what it is. Anyway, it's been a very, very exhausting week. And before we get into the exhausting parts, we had a lot of good news this week. Chelsea Manning, an American hero, was released from prison. She was a political prisoner. And then again, a lot of people are political prisoners. But she is out now. She is free. She had a slice of pizza, posted her first photo. She's looking lovely. And so feel free to follow her. Tell her, congratulations on being a hero. All those lovely things. On the other side of that, not to in any way impinge upon the mood that Chelsea Manning's freedom should, put you in. Roger Ailes died today. For those of you who don't know, Roger Ailes is a piece of shit, and the only thing better than his death would have been for him to never have been born. There we go. That's it. So, other than that,
tell us how you really feel.
It's been a bit of a long week. That's how I really feel. I don't believe in making jokes about the dead. That's more just like how I feel about it. He's one of the main reasons why we have such a hard time, extricating economic anxiety from cultural anxiety in America, because he founded his entire business upon making economic anxiety basically inextricable from anxiety and monetizing hate and racism. I know a lot of people are going to talk about the sexual harassment. That's a big deal, but the 30 years of xenophobic, racist, classist nonsense is what I tend to focus on. But apart from those two lovely events, there was a surprising turn of events on Tuesday when a memo that Comey is said to have written about a conversation that took place between him and Donald Trump. I can hear you sighing, Adair, but we got to talk about this. And I'm putting this out there. Like, I don't talk about, despite what Adair thinks, and I don't talk about every little piece of minutia that comes out about Trump, right? I didn't really care when the Washington Post was talking about how he revealed secret information to Russia, because functionally, I know Trump is stupid. Like, I know he's stupid. I know he has some sort of weird desire to impress people. I know he can't keep a secret. He's a moron. And so when I hear stuff like that, the first thing I think is, yeah, he's stupid. I don't think about it in the sort of as part of this larger grand conspiracy between him and Putin. I just go, okay, well, he's a moron. And it's unfortunate and probably dangerous that he has access to these national, classified information, because he's probably going to steal people he should steal it to. But the Comey situation, this Comey memo that came out, if it's true, and I put that out there because, again, we're gonna talk about the chain of like how this was delivered to the public, how the public found out about this, because that is important as well. If it's true, it would actually be, legal grounds for impeachment, right? It would constitute obstruction of justice. Whether or not he would actually be impeached, and we've talked about this before on the show, is an issue of power, and whether or not we have a culture that actually holds rich and powerful people accountable. But we have to talk about the Comey memo. So, does anyone want to tell us what happened with the Comey memo? How about you, Richard?
I'm not much more excited about that than anybody else, I guess.
Fine, and I'll do it if you don't want to.
Go for it.
Fine. So on Tuesday, and I'm going to say this in a way that does not sound flippant, because I personally find the amount of anonymous source-based articles we have nowadays to be incredibly problematic and incredibly annoying. And I know people are going to look at me like I'm a Trump apologist for saying that, but it just is. So, as per this article in the New York Times, the Times was approached by an associate of Comey who is aware of a memo that Comey wrote after having a conversation with Trump. And as part of a series of memos that Comey wrote after having conversations with Trump that he deemed problematic, as far as, as it pertains to his FBI's investigation into Russia. It's not his investigation. He's an administrator of the investigation, not an investigator per se. Therefore, he wrote this memo, which excerpts of the memo were related to the New York Times by the person on the phone. The Times has not seen this memo, in which they read as saying the specific language was, more or less, General Flynn's a good guy. I hope you can close this case soon, etc. And like, in the narrative has become that Trump was pressuring Comey to close this case. And as of that article coming out, Jason Chaffetz came out and said, he subpoenaed, or rather requested, that all of these memos be turned over to the House, I want to say, not Intelligence Committee, the Oversight Committee, right? And and for their case, for their investigation into the Russia interference case. And so that's where we're at, right? So if this is true, and I put that out there, this would actually be grounds for impeachment. So we have to have now, as we actually have this sort of important evidence, we have to have the conversation about what impeachment of Trump would look like, and whether it's even a possibility. If it is a possibility, what exactly would, is it a desirable outcome, in reality? So, Richard, what do you think? Are they going to impeach Trump?
Let me get myself up here. I doubt that it gets to an impeachment. It would be a pressure to resign, and then I imagine Trump finds a way to say it was his idea to leave for one reason or another if it gets there, but I find that pretty unlikely. One of the things is whether Trump should be impeached or not. I think we have to ask ourselves: should it matter what will happen afterwards? Like, is that a consideration? Should we impeach the president because the president needs to be impeached, or should we take into consideration what a President Pence would mean and the ensuing consequences from there? Okay, I see what you're saying. So, if we're going to impeach President Trump, should the consequences of a President Pence be taken into consideration? Okay. How about you, Katie? What do you think? They're going to impeach Trump?
Oh, gosh. If they do impeach Trump, it would probably be after the 2018 midterms. If he costs them a lot of power and a lot of seats, I think the GOP would be definitely on board, even if they're still in the majority, to begin impeachment. But as far as the question asked, I think that's a great question. And I think that absolutely not. Should we consider what comes of an impeachment? It's not about putting the country in a better place than it is now or in a worse place. It's about, has Trump done anything to warrant being impeached from office? And I think most people would argue absolutely yes, he has. And it would just be a matter of having a willing Congress, which I don't think we have yet. But I think if he continues to make them look really bad and put them in really dire political circumstances, I think that they would be more willing than they are now.
I mean, there's definitely something to be said about the kind of attention that Trump gets the Republican Party specifically, and also the government generally, right? I find Trump to be exhausting. Like Trump and his constant scandals, keeping up with Trump and his constant scandals is exhausting. Like no less than 24 hours, or maybe it was 24 hours. The time just moves so differently when you're following Trump. After the Comey memo, was he trying to appoint? Did Milwaukee Sheriff Clark to Department of Homeland Security position? The Sheriff Clark who I think 4 people have died in his jails from dehydration, including one newborn baby. It's like the Sheriff Clark who should be in one of his own jails. Not only that, but Joe Lieberman becomes Trump's top choice to be head of the FBI. Joe backstabber. I'm gonna kill the public option. I'm pro Iraq war Lieberman.
Not even that. Joe Lieberman is employed by one of Trump's law firms, is he not?
Yes, he is.
So there's just conflicts of interest everywhere.
Like that by itself, right? So the fact that Joe Lieberman is employed by one of Trump's law firms by itself should be enough to invalidate his appointment, to prevent from being appointed. But we'll get to all of that. So Adair, do you think that they're going to impeach Trump?
Okay, so before I go on that, Katie, just know now I love you. Don't come after me on Twitter. You're scary. Moving forward to answer that question, no, I don't think they're going to. I really truthfully don't think that they're going to impeach Trump. There's no reason for them to do so. And let's look at it from just a completely partisan standpoint. Donald Trump is red meat to the Republican base. They are frothing at the mouth, ready to go out and literally in some cases, and we're talking Virginia here, with literal torches in the middle of the night to intimidate folks because they are that emboldened by Donald Trump.
They were tiki torches.
Any Republican,
wow.
Shut up. If any Republican,
they were afraid of mosquitoes.
any Republican
citronella candles.
That smooth, sensitive white supremacist skin. I'm sorry.
Anyway, there's literally they have no incentive. They have no political incentive. It's actually probably the most disastrous move any Republican congressmember could make for their career. That's one. 2, why would you impeach Trump, someone who is absolutely incapable of literally getting anything done, in favor for someone like Mike Pence, who quite frankly has the political know-how and political ability to get things done like the travel ban, to get things done like making sure the ACA is repealed, things that he's Jeff Sessions on steroids, right? He is a literal racist, horrible person whose laws were being overturned by Republicans in Indiana because they were that draconian. That's also what we're looking at.
He's not as hated as Trump is by
point about has he done something that...
Go ahead, continue though. I was just saying he's not as hated.
I didn't hear you.
I was saying he's not as hated, but continue.
He is. He is kind of hated. Like they're undoing his laws because they're that bad. Yeah. Like Republicans are undoing his laws. But to speak specifically to Katie's point, it should only matter whether or not he's done something that's an impeachable offense. The problem with the articles of impeachment is they're so damn vague. Literally every president ever has done something worthy of being impeached over. And it's simply a matter of deciding, well, is it politically expedient? Do we feel that it rises to this certain level that impeachment must be done? Only 2 presidents have ever been impeached, and neither one went all the way through the process. I just don't see it happening, and I don't think it's a smart move for people already vulnerable in this country to put them at the hands of someone like Mike Pence, who is much more capable than Donald Trump will ever be.
So I agree. Let's actually go in order, right? So I had a little mind flooded there because it's so hot in New York City, but we're gonna go in order, right? So I agree with Adair, and we talk about this a lot. There's a difference between the law, like the 25th Amendment, the rights of impeachment, all of these laws, right, as they are written, and the use of the law, right? So pretty much every president has done something that's illegal, violated the Constitution, war crimes, they've all done these things. But it's the enforcement of the law that is the important part. Like, is there a will to enforce this law? As it comes to the Republicans and as it comes to Republicans in Congress, the Republicans have both parts of the House. I don't think they're there yet, right? I think that the whole Chaffetz and Paul Ryan calling for these memos, I don't know how much faith they have. I don't think that they believe these memos are as damning as the excerpts make them appear to be, right? And honestly, again, I feel like whenever I say stuff like this, when I'm not just like gung ho to have Trump impeached, people feel like I'm a Trump apologist. I'm inclined to sort of agree. I don't know if I believe that these memos are as damning as people are pretending them to be. Like they might be, and like see, I can definitely see Trump saying these things. Like this whole thing passes, my bullshit meter. Like Trump definitely is the kind of person like, yeah, Flynn's a good guy. Flynn's a good guy. Like I would like to, hopefully that we can close this. Like slide a $20 bill across Comey's desk and say, hopefully we can close this case soon, right? And it's like, what is this? But frankly, I think that the Republicans impeached Trump the moment they realized that they can get more stuff done with Pence, and that Pence is much more marketable, et cetera, et cetera. But I go back to agree with Rich. I think that they're more likely to try to pressure Trump to resign. I think that they're much more likely to pressure Trump to resign.
But do you actually think that Trump would bow to any of that pressure? He doesn't seem to care at all what anybody asks him to do. And like I was saying before, I do think it's a matter of political expediency. You're right. The law is enforced when it's politically expedient for it to be enforced. So yeah, basically every president has done probably something or more than one thing that would be considered an impeachable offense. But we have Donald Trump here, who has record low approval ratings. He's not getting anything done, including all of the really horrible legislation they want to get done. Every single thing he does is under a microscope. Whereas if they had a Pence or a normal candidate, most Americans would still be asleep, and not paying attention. Everything Trump does is scrutinized, and they can't get any of their like evil, diabolical plans done because it's the Trump show 24/7, and he loves it. And I don't think the Republican Party does.
Well, I mean, I agree. I think that's why I said at that point, I think that it's down to what they don't like about Trump, and it's the scandals, it's the constant attention that Trump brings to them. Look at the past, when they passed the God, that's hard to parse out, the AHCA, and he held a party, despite the fact that it wasn't law, despite the fact that it was like didn't barely pass, but despite the fact that it was widely held as being awful, he threw a party. He's such a grandiose, ignorant, incompetent, pompous individual that he brings them so much negative press. That being said, I also, and this comes down to like political will and like what a Trump impeachment would mean, I also don't think a Trump impeachment would hurt them that badly, though, right? I think that people are saying, yeah, I see you there. I think people are saying that impeaching Trump would hurt them in the midterms. And I said this before, either before or right after he was elected, that I think that depending on how incompetent Democrats are in the interim and how hard they press this, Trump is not anomalous to the Republican Party. Trump is the Republican Party in its basis form. He is their base. He's everything. If you're going to condemn Trump, you have to condemn the Republicans, because the Trump is a uniquely Republican monster. I think people outside of the party system, especially overseas, are saying, well, no, Trump is a uniquely American monster. But that's neither here nor there. I think that they can use an impeachment of Trump or Trump resigning as a come to Jesus moment. I think they can use like appointing Pence as their little, we understand that we've gone too far and we're ready to, be responsible again. And I think the Democratic Party would cheer them for it. But go ahead, Adair.
So here's the thing. When we talk about it, it's not just the midterms. It's the fact of the matter that it's not just about political expediency. It's about their literal political lives here. If a Republican, no matter whether or not the party likes the scandals, the constant media attention, everything that's going on, the party doesn't matter at that point. It's literally the voters and the base of the Republican Party, the heart of Trump voters. They love this stuff. They think it's the best thing ever. They are eating it up. They're getting more and more in the news. They're much more emboldened than they have been before. And then every single time something happens to Trump, they do these incredible mental gymnastics to find a way to say, oh, well, it's just you guys out to get Trump. If anything, it's better for the Republicans to keep Trump in office, because then they can say, well, look, we couldn't get anything done these last 2 to 4 years because of the Democrats, because the Democrats and fake news and all this other mass hysteria kind of stuff. If you get us more Republicans in there, so that way we finally have a veto-proof majority, we can just get everything passed and the world will be great and we'll actually make America great again. That's what the Republicans are going to run on. They're going to use Trump. Trump is a good thing for individuals running as Republicans, especially when you consider that if things go well for the Republican Party, they can end up with something like 62 seats in the Senate in the midterms. 62 seats, a veto-proof majority for the Republicans, and they can do that simply by riding this Trump wave, because what he's doing is exactly what he said he'd do and is exactly what their base wants him to do. So impeachment isn't a good look. Frankly, it's incredibly bad for the Republicans if they want to continue to win in the future.
I don't know. I think the honeymoon phase with Trump is over, though. I think that a lot of people. I think that stalling. I agree. I don't think the Republican Party wants to set the bad precedent or have the bad optics of impeaching Trump quite yet. I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon. And in fact, I think that the protracted nature of this Russia investigation and how much is being harped upon by a Democratic Party is only going to serve to harm the Democrats. And like you said, coalesce the few people who still love Trump around Trump, because he does have this very weird dual persona of this oppressed person, but also this strong, resilient. I don't know. He plays that weird duplicitous role of I'm constantly being like I'm constantly the victim, but I'm also just like very strong. He plays the victim card, but he also wants you to believe that he's strong enough to be an effective leader. And I think that this Russia investigation has done a decent enough job coalescing a few people around Trump, and they might stay around Trump. And I think that again, the harping on it by the Democrats is only going to hurt them for midterms. I think anything but Russia collusion being proven, and depending on how long that takes, is only going to hurt the Democrats in the long term. Frankly, though, I just haven't seen enough from the Democrats to tie. And this is like we're going to transition to Pence now, right? So I've heard people say that if Trump goes down, Pence goes down too, and I don't believe that. Let's move past the Trump impeachment thing. Let's pretend they managed to impeach Trump in, say, right after the midterm election in 2018. Let's pretend that happens. And people have been saying so far that, well, Pence goes down too. Pence is also a liar. He's also incompetent. I don't believe that at all. He's also incompetent. He goes down with Trump, and we have Paul Ryan, which is God knows why'd you want that, or Orrin Hatch. I don't know how we get there, but Pence is so much. I don't know if it's more frightening, but he's so much more skilled in his evil than Trump is. Trump is a moron, and I know I'll be accused, and I get accused often of being like an accelerationalist, right? I think it's how you pronounce that word, where which means that I'm in favor of accelerating us towards the apocalypse, and Trump is representative of that. But I'm not. I'm at this point I'm just looking at okay, well, who is going to be the most effective evil? Trump does make it hard for the Republican Party. I think it's undeniable. Like people said, Trump brings so much negative attention and scandal to them. They can't get through a week without all eyes being on what Trump is doing. And I think that, part of my metric, part of my calculus when it comes to getting rid of Trump does include, well, will the resistance maintain this momentum? Will we still see people with this same level of vigor towards critiquing the system as it's represented by Trump if Pence takes over? And I don't think that's true. I think the day after Trump gets out of president, everyone calms down.
I think if Trump gets impeached, the only way that happens is if Republicans see it in their best interest, and at least a handful of Democrats do as well. I think that's one prerequisite. But presuming that somehow this manages to happen, we have President Pence. It's a terrible
President
situation. It's a terrible situation because Democrats are already losing to Pence. Pence is already part of the Trump administration, and Democrats are already polling worse than he is. And the only person that they've managed to be able to find that polls better, they've done everything in their power to avoid making the lead of the party. Bernie Sanders, the only politician that we're finding that's polling better than Trump and Pence, and even Elizabeth Warren doesn't have the positive ratings as high. I think her net is better, but she's less well known than Pence is. So overall, he's got a higher overall approval, without counting his disapproval. But so Democrats don't have a weapon to fight Pence. They're already losing to Trump. The only thing stopping Trump is his own incompetence and the sheer brazen, and duplicitous nature of everything he says and does. And so, like, if you don't have somebody as terrible as Trump at the front of the Republican Party, it doesn't really matter who you replace him with. He's going to be more effective than Trump. And Pence has friends, knows how government works. It's going to be a lot easier for Pence to pass things. He's far more dangerous overall. I was watching Ben from the other night, and I think the one thing that you leave with Trump is that some sort of international event is more likely under a Trump administration that could lead to some sort of global catastrophe. But other than that, the immediate things as far as for people, I think it's going to be more dangerous. But go ahead, Brandon.
I have to pose that question, right? Because I see this a lot, and I see that people, when they're talking about why Pence is better than Trump, if we accept that Pence is not going to go down with Trump, I think Pence started his own pack today. If we accept that Pence is not better, if we accept that Pence is not going down with Trump, right, and that if we get rid of Trump, we're going to have President Pence. What I see as the benefit of that from people, what I think is incredibly revealing of what their hangups are, is that notion that things will be less chaotic, right? Pence represents less of a chaotic threat. Like Pence is, I think I can't pronounce his last name. Jeet said it this way. Trump represents chaotic evil, while Pence is lawful evil. Put in D&D terms. And what that speaks to me, like nerd talk. What that says to me, though, is that
nerd talk. You're just wrong.
He's wrong, right?
He's also stupid. He's not lawful evil. Lawful evil means you do bad, you do whatever for the greater good. He's also chaotic evil. If we get into the nitty gritty of the nerd talk.
Yeah, okay, but the point I'm trying to make is that what that reveals to me that there is a subsection, not a subsection, the establishment's hang up with Trump is just the scandals. Like they would just feel better. Could you imagine this Muslim ban going through, but without all of Twitter feuds with Rosie O'Donnell? Can you imagine all of this stuff happening, but without the constant bullying of random? Of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that's what Pence represents. Pence represents the exact same policies with less scandal and chaos. And I don't necessarily believe that Trump is this existential nuclear threat that people keep trying to paint him as. I think that that's just coded language for he makes me uncomfortable, and I feel embarrassed of him at the national level. And I gotta tell you this, and this goes back to the Democratic, my saying that Democrats don't hold Pence and the rest of Republicans responsible for Trump. It's Trump is not the reason why America's an embarrassment. But go ahead, Eric.
No, I just want to actually ask Katie if she wanted to get in before any of us kept talking.
Hey, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that was a very long way to say something very simple, which is that Mike Pence is boring as hell. He's boring. Nobody wants to listen to him. Nobody wants to know what he's doing or what he's going to do or what his issues are or his policy is. He's boring. Trump is exciting. He's got the reality show. He's always saying something stupid and crazy and nutty, and he's funny to watch. You've got every comedian in the country making the best jokes of their career about him. A lot of them, I think, personally, are kind of dumb, but I mean, it's riveting. The whole thing is riveting. You've got New York Times headlines saying chaos in the White House, and it's riveting. It's a reality show going on in our country in real time. We're seeing it unfold, and it's got everybody glued to their TVs and everybody glued to everything that Trump does and says and what's he going to do and what's he going to say. Mike Pence is boring. He's like watching paint dry on a sunny afternoon. He's just the most boring milquetoast human being in politics, and he would be able to get away with bloody murder, where Trump can't get away with breathing.
I think that also draws his attention to another important aspect of how profitable Trump is. That Trump's presidency is incredibly profitable for a large group of people that are caught up in the day-to-day drama. So the media networks and apparently white-collar lawyers are going to be doing really well under the Trump administration. A few other groups of folks are going to be doing really well, profiting. I mean, the personal people that are benefiting Trump as well. But so beyond the profit, there's another aspect. The people that were planning on Hillary Clinton getting elected, or whether Trump got elected, were planning on a tax repatriation plan that brought billions, trillions of dollars back from overseas, and Trump has been impacting that. So there's the top, billionaire type donors are upset about that, but there's a whole another tier of folks, the consultant class and the pundit class and the media class. All those folks are making a killing off of this, but there's a larger group at play that was expecting this repatriation to be coming through a lot quicker than it is, and it doesn't look like it might be able to pass under Trump. And so I think that's where some of the motivation for removing Trump out of the pictures is at play. And so, as we know how donations work with the various politicians, it's gaining some support, I think, and people are feeling the pressure. And so as more things start to come up that seem more bipartisan, that implicate Trump in negative ways, you may see more support behind giving pressure for him to resign in a way that somehow doesn't reflect poorly on Republicans. It looks like Adair's trying to get in here, so I will give him the floor.
Appreciate it. But here's the thing, though. I'm going to quote Kendrick real quick. There's levels to this shit, right? There's levels to what's going on and to why we're talking about this and why it matters that we have this conversation about impeachment and about what comes after Trump if those things do go through. And here's one of the biggest reasons why. Because Brandon, I want to answer a question that you asked, and is the resistance going to continue to be involved if Donald Trump is no longer at the forefront, if Donald Trump is no longer that mascot that they get to stab voodoo doll pins into because apparently white people feel like that's something acceptable to do? And the answer to that is no. If they stop being any semblance of actively engaged, whatever that actively engaged is for them, be it just going to an occasional rally and yelling, yeah, I don't like Trump. But if it was just pins, if they would see it and see it, oh, yeah, there was a Muslim ban. I'm going to get on Twitter and I'm going to say hashtag no bans. And that's it. It's going to be that same kind of, I'm going to say I'm down, but I'm not really down kind of activism that we've been seeing with things like Standing Rock, that we see with BLM, that we see with all these other very important social movements that are going on in this country right now. But because they don't feel that it directly impacts them, they really couldn't care less. Trump is the only person that makes them feel like, well, maybe I should do something. So they get a foot in the door. Now, mind you, if Trump is the only thing that gets you out of bed, we got a problem. Like, you and I personally have got some issues because it's not just about y'all, right? It's not just about the oppression of essentially white people economically and of white women in particular, who I have come into great contact with, because a lot of y'all got to understand this oppression is intersectional, right? The fact of the matter is that oppression for the majority of people in this country is not tied to the ballot box, but tied to the system that implemented this ballot box. So to us, impeachment's just kind of this roundabout, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. But it is to a very specific, very select group of people who are currently engaged, the end all be all. And if that happens, they are no longer there. And we lose any semblance of support from them that we have right now.
Well, I want to say this quickly. I'm sorry for going on long. It's hot and I'm a little bit crazy right now. But no, I think that you all laid it out very clearly. It's like Trump upsets a lot of people's sensibilities, and their desire to move towards Pence is a desire to remove back to like the normalcy that is the status quo. And I've always said that the idea of a status quo as like an actual thing that exists socially is kind of a misnomer, because you're either getting worse or you're getting better. Like, society doesn't just like sit and stagnate. Like either you're getting worse or you're getting better, and under Pence we'd be getting worse, but people would be feeling better about how we're getting worse. And I think advocating for Pence in the same way that people like Ted Lieu and I can't pronounce his name, I'm gonna butcher and I'm gonna feel bad, but whatever Jeet does, like, really minimizes the kind of people who would struggle under Pence presidency, the LGBTQ community, the Muslim community, people like that, people who would actually, it's not just about taxes, right? It's not just about the tax cuts. It's actually about, trans people's lives would still be on the line, but you would just feel better about it. And, you pinky swear about how real resistance will still be going, but don't worry about it. We'll still be resisting. It's like, no, you won't. Come on, guys. And this is not my way of saying that I prefer Trump over Pence, because if I could guarantee that people would be just as active in resisting Pence or Ryan or Orrin Hatch as they are with Trump, I would be in a minute for impeaching Trump, getting rid of Trump. But I can't guarantee that, and that makes me, you know, a bit wary. But I do want to move on because the Washington Post had an article come out, and I know it's going to be your guys' favorite topic, that said Hillary Clinton is the best candidate for 2020, and this goes along with her starting her. Let me get this right. Onward Together.
Yeah. Even the language is dated. Like even like the name of the group is hopelessly outdated.
I like it.
When y'all are done with the show, look at FBD.
That was great. But Katie, what do you think about Hillary Clinton's coming back to the political sphere?
Well, oh my, what's left to say about this? She hasn't pledged to not take super PAC money, lobbyist money, corporate money. It's the same old in DC. There's nothing new about this group. It's just the Hillary Clinton campaign repackaged and renamed and on to back their next establishment candidate, whether it be Chelsea or I don't think it's going to be Hillary. I honestly and earnestly think and hope that it's not going to be Hillary. I think they're trying to push Chelsea on us now, but it's just a way for the Clintons to not only keep their family stranglehold on Democratic politics and in the party, but also to ensure that other groups that are trying to back people like Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard and the real progressive wing of the party that was obviously introduced to a lot of people this last election. It's to keep them from getting too much power, I think.
I think they run Hillary 2020. Like I think,
really, I
second that. I second they run together in 2020 as well.
I think they.
I don't even like saying it out loud, but I think it could happen.
Yeah.
They're gonna poll test Clinton heavily. And I know that sounds dirty, but it's dirty, but it's not it's not good dirty. It's bad dirty. They're going to make, if they don't run her, it's because they've had so many focus groups that say no, never.
The polling was really, really bad. If
the polling is really, really bad, so if they're even considering it, it has to be I don't know if it can get much worse. Yeah.
I mean, Onward Together, apart from being dated, is also like the most dark money group in the history universe. Like I think it's a 501c4. Yeah, definitely. I think it's probably a 501c4. Yeah, I think they're nodding at me off camera, so tell me, yeah, I got the numbers right, which means that it can accept like no requirements for disclosing donors, unlimited dark money. Doesn't make a difference. And it's like what Kate said, like she's looking to be the kingmaker. If she can't be the king, she wants to at least be able to pick the king in a way. And I feel bad because last episode we had this whole thing about like why are we still relitigating the primary? It's like, well, because look at this. Look, this is like I don't want to do it, but like she refuses to leave.
The DNC, when they were electing Tom Perez, before they had a vote on taking lobbyist cash to reinstate the ban that Obama put in place against some lobbyist cash. It wasn't even all lobbyist cash, but just some lobbyist cash going into the DNC, and they voted against it. And why? What better reason than obviously they're going to be counting on Hillary to be lumping up all the big money and putting it to whichever kingmaker or queenmaker she wants to make. And I mean, I think Elizabeth Warren, maybe, like, did she do enough for Hillary to give her a chance? Is it like, or do you think she's? Because I mean, she recently came out for single payer. Is she trying to co-opt the Bernie voters, or is there a chance that Hillary and that group would think they've done enough to co-opt her? I'm curious.
They've had like 1,000 different opportunities to co-opt Bernie voters, and these are voters that would have gladly been co-opted had their issues and platform been addressed. And they had so many opportunities to reach out to progressives in the last election and since, and they have not only not taken advantage of those opportunities, it seems like they've consciously made an effort to do the exact opposite of what a progressive wing of the party would want them to do. They were kind of pushing it in our faces, how little they cared about what we thought and what we wanted. And so I don't think they're going to run an Elizabeth Warren. I think even she, for all of the progressive bona fides that she might have lost in the last election, I think she's still a little too out on the ledge for them. They'll run someone like like a Tim Kaine kind of, I don't know if they'll run him, specifically, but they'll run someone like him, someone very milquetoast and very white and male and boring.
They might run Cory.
I guarantee it.
They might run Cory.
Well, I think they're going to try and spread the progressive vote. Like they're going to see, like that's what they were trying to do. I think when they were floating Joe during the primary and stuff, they were trying to figure out how can they spread out Bernie's vote and so that there's more of an established concentration of the establishment vote. But that's the problem is they haven't found any people that are close enough to the establishment where they can kind of control their behavior, but far enough where they can actually pull away progressives from Bernie's wing. And I don't know whether Bernie's going to run or not, and whether if there's another progressive champion out there, what that does. If Bernie does run,
I hope he does. He'll be old.
I really hope
like we would prefer somebody else step up, right? That's my position. And I think it sounds like you too. I don't know, Katie.
Not even like I need like an actual leftist, but I'd put money on there being someone with the name Clinton running in the Democratic primary in 2020. I would bet money on it. I think it's going to be Hillary. I don't think she literally doesn't care. She does not care. It's her turn. You're going to vote her into office. And if it's not her, then she's going to live vicariously through Chelsea. And they're going to absolutely ram Chelsea down our throats and be like, if you don't vote, because it's going to be the exact same trope we've seen already. If you don't vote for Chelsea, you're a sexist. If you didn't vote for her mom, you're already a sexist, but you can redeem yourself by voting for Chelsea. If you don't vote for Chelsea, you're not a Democrat. You're really Republican.
I know we have Trump, but like, I don't understand how they could seriously put forward Chelsea in 2020. Like, I don't think she gets qualified to be presidential candidate.
Maybe for a Senate seat in New York or
I can
something.
See that, yeah.
I can't imagine her running for president.
I literally don't think that. I don't think they care. I don't think they care. And here's the reason why. Here's why I will argue. This is what, if I were them, if they were smart, this is the counter argument they would use. She's been raised like nobody else has in a political environment, being a member of the first family in the early 90s, her mother having ran 2 separate presidential campaigns that she was heavily involved with. She has a better understanding, a better support team of anybody in the Democratic primary. And if you don't vote for Chelsea Clinton, then you do not want someone that has both the youthfulness to get involved, be hands-on, and actively change things, and also the staff with experience to back her when she might need that help. That is how you package Chelsea Clinton to run as the president. That's exactly what they will do. They will lean heavily on Bill and Hillary, and she will flame out like nobody's business, but she would win the Democratic primary. I can almost guarantee you
Chelsea could do so.
See, I think the Clintons are just a little more traditionalist, though. They believe in kind of getting a smaller job first and working your way up. So that's why I see them kind of floating Chelsea's name for maybe like a Senate seat in New York State. And then working up from there, maybe getting her just like Hillary Clinton did, which is get her a job in an administration for another Democratic president, something like that. I just can't imagine a 38-year-old or a 39-year-old, however old she is, running for the Democratic nominee for president just yet. I think that they're a little too traditionalist to go that far that quick.
Bill definitely is. I think at this point, Hillary is so desperate to get back in the Oval Office that she will force Chelsea on people. I think Hillary is to that point where she's beyond, we just need to work with it. No, we're getting back in the White House. I'm going to run things behind the scenes. She wants to, I think she would really use Chelsea as a puppet and be kind of this shadow president. That she wants to be Chelsea's Steve Bannon. That's who she wants to be.
Jesus.
Like, that's going to be her goal.
Image. You put in my head, man. No, I don't. The thing about Chelsea running, like I think that the Hillary Clinton's going to test the waters for a 2020 run every few months, every few weeks until 2020, until she has to decide. And the thing about that is, like, you gotta realize, a lot of their donor money, a lot of the money they get from people is dependent upon that connection to the White House. Like Hillary losing the presidency, was not a calculation that they the Clinton Foundation was making. And so they kind of need to have some kind of plan going for 2020. They need that as leverage to get more donors. That being said, I don't think Chelsea can win. I definitely don't think Hillary Clinton can win. But I'm forced to say, I don't know who they're going to put up. I don't know who Democrats have to put up that's going to actually be able to make a run for it, depending on what the Republicans do in the next 4 years. Because they thinking back to the town hall with Nancy Pelosi, thinking back to the town hall with Kasich and Bernie Sanders, they still just don't seem to be pushing forth any kind of policies. They don't, at least not at the most public level. Of course, Medicare for all, single payer is on everyone's minds, but they're just not talking about it enough. They're not trying to build up the kind of excitement for that might preclude a strong showing in the midterms. Instead, they're focusing on this Russia thing. Like, what was the information that came out yesterday whenever the town hall with Kasich was? Like, they at last minute they shift the topic from healthcare to Russia and Trump. And at this point, every time that Bernie Sanders does something like this, all I think in my head, like, he's just a sheepdog. Like, he's just a sheepdog for Democrats now. Like what is he doing? It's like he's just running out the clock so that no one else can like take control of the party.
I mean, let me clarify real quick about my Chelsea statements. I don't think she would win the presidency. I think she'd win the Democratic nomination. I think she'd win the Democratic nomination. I think there's such a fervor for anything Clintonian still inside the Democratic Party that there's just no way she couldn't. Her mom can pull all the strings. Her parents just in the background pull all the strings, get her the superdelegates, just like Hillary had. And it wasn't it, but I agree with you. I don't think Democrats are priming themselves to run in 2018. Democrats are all about being reactionary, and they're basically trying to draw this cultural line in the sand and say, hey, this is what Trump does, and if you vote for Trump, you believe these things, and this is who you are. Therefore, if you want to be a good person, vote for us. And that's just not a rhetoric that's going to win. People are poor, people are hurting.
That doesn't work. Like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Reactionary. The center is not centrism. I'm sorry, radical centrism is not a legitimate national party position, because that doesn't have a constituency, especially not the way that they found their centrism, because their centrism is not as though they're in the center economically and in the center social. That's Bernie Sanders. Like that's where Bernie Sanders is. He's in the center of both those things. What they are is like they're to the far right economically, and they're to like the center left socially, and that averages out to the center altogether, which makes them unappealing to everybody. It's like they're not like they have a C because they have an A. They have an A in gym and an F in math. It's like that's their problem. But go ahead.
I was just going to quickly say that they're doomed. I mean, you can even hear it in the rhetoric of talking about it with an impeachment. Even the people that are kind of thinking about impeaching Trump for Pence, it could lead to Pence for 11 years. Pence getting reelected twice. Like, it's already easy to concede that the Democrats will lose the next two presidential elections, because everything that they've done up until this point shows us that they haven't learned a single thing other than that they need to at least pretend to appeal to progressives if they want a chance, and it appears that's where they're at right now. They're at the stage of pretending to appeal to progressives, allowing certain folks to go out and say that they support single payer, so long as we don't get too close to actually passing it by winning too many seats and getting too many people that support it. And so it seems that them losing the next two presidential elections is something that is very possible, if not probable. And that's a scary thought. So we're almost done with time. We got like 2 minutes left, give or take. So
well, I mean, we're gonna go a little bit past the break. But I was going to say, you know what this reminds me of? Like, the Democrats' ideal constituency is suburban housewives who clutch their pearls when Trump says the word pussy. It's just and unfortunately, that's who they're trying to get to vote for them. But the moment they get rid of Trump, the moment that those people stop voting Democrat and go right back to voting Republican.
Give me a Dem who could actually beat Trump. Give me a single Dem. I don't care who they are. Name one Dem that could win in 2020 or 2024.
All of them. Anyone.
Any of them could
beat Trump.
No, they can't, because the problem is the Dems aren't going to run an actual campaign. We're going to see.
They could if they held the right positions, but they're never going to hold those positions. But continue.
Exactly, but they don't. That's the issue, is they don't do it. So there's literally no Democrat right now that could actually come out that would win the Democratic Party primary that would win against Trump in 2020 or 2024ar.
Hillary was unique.
Pelosi could get my vote if she actually moved the House to do these things. Sorry.
I agree.
I mean, any of them could get my vote.
So go ahead, Katie.
Actually moving these things. Go ahead, Katie. Yeah.
No, I totally agree that if the Democrats actually considered having a real progressive platform and run just on everything that Bernie Sanders ran on, and make it all about issues and what affects everyday Americans rather than the character of their opponent, of Trump, of the Republican Party, I think that they would win easily. I think that it would not take a lot. It would not take hundreds of millions of dollars. It would take a decent platform that would promise to make the lives of American people better. And I think they can run any Democrat in the country, and I think that they could beat Donald Trump or Mike Pence.
We should definitely talk about money, because like that's super important, because like obviously this onward together, own together thing is all about, you know, infusing dark money into politics. And we saw how well that worked for the Clinton campaign in the 2016 election. Unfortunately, we're running out of time for the live portion of our show, because Ben is coming on at 9 p.m. So therefore, we're gonna cut it here, and we're gonna make the rest of the show another 30 minutes available after. I just want to say thank you, Katie, for joining us for like the live portion. If you can, of course, you're free to stick around if you'd like. Tell people where they can find you.
Thank you guys for having me. It's always fun. You can find me on Twitter at Rosetta Drone. Also, my podcast is Planet Progressive on Podbean.
Sounds great. Please, thank you all who have become early patron of the Discourse with Brandon, Adair, and Richard. We're gonna have a patron hangout toward the end of the month for all of you guys. Check your emails for your thank you letters and information on that soon. For all those who qualify, if you haven't become a patron, please feel free. The link is at the bottom of the screen somewhere. Might be this way. Yeah. Cool, whatever. Therefore, we're going to cut the live portion of the show, and please feel free to listen to the end. We're going to make the link available somewhere. I'm sorry. It's really hot, and it's really frying my brain.
Or if you just suck, like generally.